So I'm going to start off with a follow-up to one of the articles that I talked about yesterday. It seems that the dramatic drop in compromised Cisco iOS XE devices sadly wasn't due to a major success on the part of cyber defenders and network admins. I was so desperately hoping it would be when I was talking yesterday. It appears that at least some of the missing compromised devices are because the um, malware has basically gone into hiding mode and has been made invisible to the previous fingerprinting techniques. Okay, until we got some new fingerprinting techniques, we won't know how many devices are still out there that are compromised. However, whereas was so hoping that a lot of this stuff had been dealt with, it does look like there's still a fair amount to do, a fair amount to be fixed in this space. So if you are running Cisco iOS XE devices, watch out. CVE 2023-20198 has got a CVSS score of 10 out of 10. So, at least get back onto Cisco, make sure that you are able to, your support contracts are in place and that you're actually applying the patches that you're entitled to. So a little bit disappointing, but these things happen. Valve, the games people, there's been a spate of attacks on aimed at independent developers on its Steam game distribution platform. So Valve is introducing 2FA, or has introduced. Well, in fact, we'll start rolling out 2FA from today. Okay, nothing really earth-shattering on that. However, the article in Dark Reading, which I very much agree with here, is saying, well, okay, 2FA, any 2FA is better than no 2FA. By a long, long way. However, they've chosen to implement 2FA using SMS, and the vulnerabilities in SMS-based 2FA are well known and are well known to attackers. So, from the point of view of just automated password spraying, any kind of 2FA will protect you against it. If somebody is actually interested in you, ways of subverting SMS-based 2FA are not particularly hard. The simplest one is to walk into a phone shop and get the SIM swapped. Get the number swapped to a new SIM. You think this stuff shouldn't happen. It does happen. It happens through it happens through a lack of attention to detail by the salespeople. It also happens because it's not that difficult to pay off somebody to do this sort of stuff, and the likelihood of them getting caught is very slim. So. Also bearing in mind that your phone number is one of the things which is most often stolen in data breaches. So you've got to say a lot of the world will know or could find out your mobile number. So just be aware, if you are relying on SMS-based 2FA, it is not the strongest. If there are other options that would be better to use, although a little clunky and old-fashioned, things like the time-based tokens would be good. I think in my mind, jury's out a little bit on passkey stuff, but it's certainly effective at the moment with things like fingerprint and facial recognition, other bits and pieces, certainly good enough in that space. But the old-fashioned Google Authenticator type stuff is relatively difficult to bypass. I mean, it's not perfect, but that's the way to go. So it's perhaps a little bit of a shame that Valve haven't implemented 2FA in that way, or at least they're allowed. I'm not sure whether they are mandating SMS-based 2FA or whether it's one of the options, but I think it would be something I would consider phasing out if I was looking at 2FA as a method of second factor authentication these days. 2FA is no longer some esoteric thing that only techies understand. I think the majority of people either do understand it or would get it if somebody explained it to them. Then it's not onerous. So yeah. Keep an eye out for SIM swapping and other SMS interceptions of 2FA codes. There's been a hack on Casio's learning platform. Japanese electronics maker Casio has announced that the personal information of customers in 150 countries has been exposed in a recent data breach. Data breach was discovered 10 or 12 days ago, and it involved unauthorized access to a database in the development environments for ClassPad.net, which is an education web app that Casio manages and operates. If you are, therefore, a ClassPad user, obvious recommendations: change your password, make sure you've still got access to the systems. If you've reused passwords anywhere else, if that password is associated with anything else, change the other passwords as well, because undoubtedly people will try password and account spraying to all sorts of things. So yeah, just watch out for that one. I don't think it's, I think that, let me see, there are over 90,000 items, impacted individuals in Japan, and around 35,000 belonging to customers from other regions. So not an absolutely massive breach, but if you are using it, that platform, definitely worth taking the usual precautions. And finally, then, from me, there is an article in Cybersecurity News pointing out that Europe's shipping industry is under widespread cyber attack. Why shipping? Well, a lot of stuff moves around the world on ships. Container ships. A lot of trade and commerce involves, in one way or another, goods moving about by ships. Historically, they've kind of been a bit off the radar. A ship tends to, sets out to sea. I know there are people that track where is everything, because a chap I used to know many years ago had a job at an oil company on the management fast track stream, and one of his fast track jobs was to spend some time checking that oil tankers were going to arrive in the right place at the right time, which is pretty important, because if they arrive early or late, there's probably nowhere for them to dock, so it all gets a bit messy. Satellite tracking of things. What's happened, though, is that the systems on ships are now regularly connected to the internet via the systems that just used to be sort of passive tracking, and radio comms and those sorts of things. It is fair to say that there have been many research articles published over the last 10 or 15 years demonstrating that cybersecurity was not really considered when these systems were being linked together. So, to put it in context, if you go and search for, let's say, some of the more common shipping satellite systems on Shodan, you will find devices all around the world, and there are regular unauthenticated access vulnerabilities in those systems, and those systems are often connected to the ship's main computer systems because it just hasn't been thought about. So in this particular report, they're talking about attacks on Viking Line appear to have been distributed denial of service attacks. So but it just demonstrates this. There are parts of there are things that are really critical infrastructure that we may not think of when we're thinking about critical infrastructure. I think if shipping were to be disrupted quite quickly, there would be all sorts of problems in many sectors in the market. So okay, probably I would be surprised if anybody here is working in the shipping industry, but if you are, obviously I appreciate that these problems are better known. I do. I've come across organisations that have pen tested all sorts of strange things. I know of an organisation that's pen tested buses, for example. Well, you can pen test ships as well. Strongly recommended. But yeah, just want to sort of raise the awareness that there are parts of, there are industries where cybersecurity perhaps is a little niche still, and we can all do with sort of raising the profile and helping out as and when we can in that space. And that is enough from me for today. I hope you have a good Tuesday, and I will speak to you all again.